they can get liberated. That was our main topic last week, because if we use our consciousness to understand Krishna's appearance and activities, then our consciousness also becomes transcendental. And we should love God and not the concept of God. Most of the traditions talk of God, but Krishna consciousness talks about the absolute truth. So as we discussed, the concept of God is more at the level of awe and reverence, creation, destruction, that sort. But the sweetness and the reciprocity is missing in that concept. That concept is available in the concept of Bhagavan, Krishna. So that's why Krishna is saying Tattvata, know me, know my absolute truth, know me as the absolute truth. That's what we read or we talked about last time. And there were a couple of good questions that we discussed that were brought up. I think one was about, Ashish Prabhu was pointing out how what was it? That how can we go out when our how can we be vulnerable when our heart has been hurt so many times, broken so many times? How can I still go out? And we discussed how that most of the conflict, most of the problems come from the expectation of wanting the other persons to give something in return. That's what makes me afraid. That's what is hurtful. But when I see that my cup is being filled up by the process of bhakti, is being filled up by Krishna's love, then suddenly the desire to have other people fill our expectations is completely diminishes. And then our relationships become more harmonious and we become more fearless. That was one point we discussed. There was also a question about how spiritual life seems hard. I'm not sure if you brought this up, but when our purpose is strong, our purpose of bhakti, why we are doing bhakti, and the sincerity behind it is strong, then all the obstacles, they just remain as learning experiences, the process. Right? So when the purpose is strong, we can overcome obstacles because we know where we are going and we figure a workaround. But if we don't know where we are going, all paths seem to be hard. And also, in the material life, actually material life is even harder than spiritual life, but when we see millions of others doing it, we take it as a necessary evil. Now we have to do it. So that's why it seems that material life is hard, but material life is much, much harder than spiritual life. But when we come to spiritual life, our purpose is not strong, and that is why it seems harder. So those are a couple of points that I can remember that we discussed last time. So let's jump on to verse 10 and get going with that. Okay. Vitraga bhaya krudha manmaya mam upashrita bhavo gyan tapasa uta mad bhavam agata. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So, a question may arise, Krishna, in this is that, like in the last verses that we read, that Janma Karma Chavati, people who know my transcendental birth.
We don't know the place in the
who knows the transcendental, who knows my transcendental birth becomes liberated. But then the question could come that, okay, how do I know your Janma and Karma? How do I come to that position? Now he tells that how to overcome it. How can we understand? And what are the three main obstacles in understanding Krishna's Janma and Karma? Janma, Karma, cha me divyam. So this is the first reference where Krishna is asking Arjun to take his shelter. Man maya mam upashrita. Right? He's very here. So mam in me, if you see, and upashrita being fully situated. This is the first reference of this, that Krishna is himself bringing him into the picture. So here he's giving three reasons. And what are those three reasons? They are attachment, fear, and anger. Okay? Those are the three reasons by which we are not able to connect with Krishna. Okay. So let's look at each one of them. So with means, the word with is freedom. So freedom from what? The first is raga. Rag means attachment. Okay. So three obstacles have been given: attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, anger. And then what's the misconceptions? We'll see that in Prabhupada's purport, and I have put it here in here also. But so let's just look at each one of them. So attachment, how is attachment a problem? Prabhupada is telling us, generally people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it's almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. That's the first problem people have. Okay. So when we are too attached to matter, we don't think of God. We can't even think of Him, right? When we are so materially attached, we are asking for material things, not God. Right? At that time, taking shelter of Krishna is impossible for anybody, right? I have this body, I have my bodily attachments, and then so these attachments are so strong and so bewildering that I'm not able to think of Krishna. I'm not able to think of anything beyond this body. That's what is being talked about here. So that's the first challenge that Krishna is giving. That is, the bodily conception of life is so strong that people are not able to think of the Supreme. And it comes in the Bhagavatam also that there's a verse that says that people who think that they, this body, the extension of this body, a country of origin, a place of birth, all these things, if they are worshipable, they are no more better than a cow and an ass. Says that. So there's a verse in the Bhagavatam which says that. So people who are very strongly connected to this bodily conception, they cannot think of Krishna. They can never understand Krishna's karma, janma and karma. That's the first problem, attachment. The second is fear, bhaya. Okay. So now what is the problem with bhaya? What is the fear about? So let's see where Prabhupada is talking about. So some people, they are Prabhupada is saying that when they're informed that the spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again, and so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal Brahman. Right? So people get fearful because they have had painful relationships in this life. They become scared of relationships, and they start thinking, oh my God, in the spiritual world also I'll have to have relationship. So they try to negate the form concept of God. And they think that spirit has to be formless, because if relationship in this world are so painful, then I cannot just imagine what will they be like in the spiritual world. So there cannot be any relationship in the spiritual world. So they completely negate the spiritual form of the form of God, and that concept of Krishna, Janma and Karma, Krishna playing with his friends and his mother running after him, so on and so forth. So all these things are beyond conception, because we are scarred because of our painful relationships in this material life, right? So intellectually, the person gets he or she, they move away from the personal conception of God. That's another reason why people don't understand the Janma and Karma of Krishna. So they, according to those people who are fearful, they think that the concept of form, of having a form, is only there in this material world. So for them, the matter and form go hand in hand. They cannot think that, oh, form can also be in the spiritual world. So idea of spirit for them is anti-material, is anti-matter. So say they think that by negating matter, we can go into the antimatter, and that they think that's spiritual part. So that's the part of bhaya. And the last one is krodha. So krodha is anger. And, oh, sorry, take a step back. So as we say Prabhupada's mantra, right? That nirvishesha shunyavadi paschatya deshatari. So those are the monists. Nirvishesha. Vishesha means form. Nirvishesha means formless. So people who don't believe in a form of God, that is one concept that has grasped the society and, bewildered them and misdirected them from the path of bhakti, misdirected them from their growth in bhakti. So Prabhupada, that's why in his mantra he says that he came to, remove this concept of monism, nirvisheshavadi, from the society. That's why he brought the personal form of God to everyone. That's why his mantra has nirvisheshavadi, nirvishesha shunyavadi. So the other one is shunyavadi. So the third problem that people have is anger, krodha. So why are people in krodha? Let's look at the purport Prabhupada tells us. Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. So that's the krodha. So krodha comes from the frustration of not knowing what is right. Okay. Some people say God is like this, some say God is like that, and some say only my God exists, and all the others are demons who don't believe in my God. So people get very skeptic about it, right? And so the krodha arises as a result of skepticism. They think it's better to forget everything, right? We won't be cured of a disease if we feel that there is no clarity with any doctor, right? So if I have a disease and I will say, oh, I don't have faith in this doctor, I don't have faith in this doctor, I'll probably die of that disease. So they think there is no God, and then they feel that everything comes from nothingness and everything will merge in nothingness. There is nothing before this life, nothing after this life. And then some even degrade into that concept, right? We have talked about it, Charvaka Muni philosophy, right? Yavan jivet, sukham jivet, ghritam pivet. It's like till whenever you're living, live happily. Either you have to beg, borrow, or steal, but you always eat ghee. You enjoy life. That's the concept of Charvaka Muni. Yavan jivet, sukham jivet, ghritam. Oh, sorry. Okay, I forgot the verse. Okay, so that's the concept of anger. So what does anger lead to? And that nowadays is a lot in practice. This concept of skepticism and this concept of that, oh, everything, people are just fooling us. I don't believe in God. So that concept is a lot in practice nowadays. And unfortunately, science is also endorsing that, this thought, right? So science promises to give us not even science, but this whole philosophy of voidism. It gives that you can live a pious life, right? Just you don't have to think of God or spiritual. You can just live a pious life and be good, just like Buddhism. So that's what it comes from. But then if we are skeptics, it won't benefit us. It won't heal us. Okay. And this kind of people, Prabhupada also says somewhere. Okay, he says a very good statement here. This is what that this class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and the effective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual visions. So they feel that there is no God and I can create something of my own and figure it out myself. The hippies in the 1960s, 70s, they were taking LSDs and burning banana peels to get high and so forth, and they felt that the high was the spiritual vision. So these two people are bewildered and fooled also. So, okay. So now Prabhupada is giving us a remedy in the purport, this section. To get free from these three stages of material conception of life, three things Prabhupada is giving. Take complete shelter of the Lord, one, guided by a bona fide spiritual master, follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. Okay. So those are the three things Prabhupada is giving us, the way to not fall trap to this hopelessness that is being presented here, which Krishna is saying doesn't let us think of Krishna's Janma and Karma. And then Prabhupada goes on to talk about the ladder. We have talked about this ladder earlier on Nectar of Instruction, going all the way from Shraddha to Prema. So we have already talked about it. The initial, I won't go in detail, but just in summary, that the initial concept is inquisitiveness, is a positive curiosity. That's called Shraddha, right? And then we do some activity to nourish that Shraddha, co-association of devotees, sadhu sangha. Then anartha nivritti comes, desires are removed, nishtha is faith, faith becomes strong, and it becomes like a banyan tree, which is never shaken by any storm or anything. Earlier, till nishtha is not there, our faith is very much like a banana tree, can be uprooted by any little shake. Then comes ruchi, we start developing taste for Krishna. So Prabhupada is explaining all these steps, right? And so that's the good thing. So then finally comes prema, which is the full development of love to Krishna. And at that time, Krishna comes and shakes hands with you. In the second canto, when the Chatushloki Bhagavatam comes, Krishna, kind of comes and says and he gives him the message, and Krishna is leaving. He says, Varam Varaya Bhadram Te. So Krishna is saying, I congratulate you. And then, he comes, he shakes hands, he fist bumps Brahma, and then he moves forward. So that's the stage of prema. So, but we come to prema by steady practice, as we have talked about it many times. Steady practice brings us to prema. And this process of bhakti, as we were discussing last class also, and I was just mentioning a summary today. In the beginning, it looks very hard, and Krishna also acknowledges that fact. He, in the 18th chapter, I think it's close to 40, I think it's the 37th verse. Krishna says that yatta dagre vitamiva pariname amritopama tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajan. That what means that yatta agre vishamiva, in the beginning what looks like poison, pariname amritopama, but the end is like nectar. That satisfaction is in the mode of goodness, right? And it's atma buddhi prasadajam. It's prasada. It's like nectar. It's like Krishna's mercy. So atma buddhi. So it kind of elevates our buddhi. So that's what it happens. That's why bhakti, in the beginning it looks, but later on when we start getting realizations, reciprocations from Krishna, then we become so attached to it that we never want to give it up for anything else. Right? So that's what Prabhupada is giving this whole process again. He's explaining these steps again of the bhakti steps, what it takes to reach to prema, right? And something similar also comes in Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, it says that pramanis tatsad achare yad abhyase nirantaram bodhyam atmanatmanam bhaktim api uttamam labhe. That how do you get the highest degree of devotion? It's by slow degrees. It comes in slow degrees. But how does it come? By parmanis. Parman means scriptural evidences. When we have faith in the scriptural evidence, we take help of scriptural evidence. Parmanes tatsad achares. Achara means theistic conduct. We follow the regulative principle. So parmanes tatsad achara yad abhyasa. So abhyasa means perseverance. Abhyasa, perseverance in practice, right? So when we have a constant endeavor for these things, scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice, all that constantly, when we do that consistency, that brings the highest stage of devotion for us. And that's what Prabhupada is highlighting in the purport, that somebody can ask him that, okay, Krishna has told us about these 3 things we have to avoid, but then how do I do it on a practical level? And that's why Prabhupada has brought this ladder again back in the purport. So that's the 10th verse for us. Let's see if there's anything else in the purport. Yeah, so Prabhupada is kind of reiterating himself. And I think this is something I was quoting from Brahma Samhita. It's a slow process, but if you consistently are on it, then success is assured, it's guaranteed. So, and Prabhupada is saying, under the guidance of a bona fide master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from the 3 defects: attachment, fear, and and frustration, anger. So all of these, by slow process of devotional practice, we can come out of them. Okay, let's come to 11. So, so now this is the beginning of another section. Let's go back to the slides. Yeah. So till now we were doing the P section, the what is this transcendental knowledge? But now we're coming to the section how to apply this knowledge, right? How to apply the transcendental knowledge part, and to be more specific, and understanding Krishna's position. Then how can we apply that? So Krishna will discuss these processes now. How do we come to this thing? And the first 11th verse comes. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamiham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Okay. So Krishna is saying, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamiham. So as all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. So the first part of the verse talks about Lord being reciprocal, right? And he is reciprocating according to our desires, right? And then in the second part, Krishna says that all people follow my path. Okay. So the impersonalists, they just like to quote the second part of this verse, where they're saying that all paths take us to Krishna or to God. We don't have to go with one path, and everything is Krishna, everything is God. You are God, I am God, everything is God. Let's become God. So that's what impersonalists do. And when they quote this verse, they quote the second part of this verse. The first being Ye yatha mam prapadyanti tam tathaiva bhajamiham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. So the second part is what they quote, but they skip the first part. So Lord Krishna is not like a stone. He reciprocates accordingly. Right? So when we practice the things that Prabhupada mentioned in the last purport, when we practice our dharma, we get purified. Okay. And then how is Krishna mentioning? He's saying, where was it? In the last verse, Krishna said that mam upashrita. Right? So you can, Krishna is recommending mam upashrita, but not everyone wants to practice bhakti. Right? But then whoever practices, constant endeavor, and bona fide spiritual master, and so on and so forth, what Prabhupada said, then Krishna, by seeing their effort, he purifies them. Okay? And then the Janma and Karma of Krishna manifests to us. But if I think that Krishna is material, his body is material, he came here for he also got entrapped in this material world, then we will never be able to understand Krishna's position. We will also remain in the material world. Krishna lets us remain in the material world. So that's what it means, that accordingly, Krishna, whatever I desire, Krishna fulfills it. Right? So that's the first part. Okay. So reciprocity is the first part. The second one, which says that Mama Vartmanu Vartante Manushya Partha Sarvasha, that all paths lead to Krishna. So that's it. But then if that is true, if we for a minute understand that all paths are going to Krishna, then why does Krishna talk about other paths in Bhagavad? For example, in the 9th chapter, Krishna talks about yanti deva vrata devan, pitra yanti pitrata, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti mad yatino apimam. That people who pray to the devatas, they go to the devatas. People who pray to pitras, they go to pitras. And so people who pray to me, they come to. Why is Krishna talking about different paths? So if all paths were going to take us to Krishna, then Arjuna didn't even have to fight the war. Why was even Krishna asking him to fight the war? So this verse, even though Krishna is saying Mama Vartamanu Vartante, what it means is that all paths lead to Krishna, right? Because Krishna is the source of all of that. In the 10th chapter, when we'll read, you'll see that everything is part and parcel of Krishna, right? Mama Amsha Sambhava. Krishna says that the last verse of the 10th chapter. Mama Amsha Sambhava. That everything is existing as my part, right? So somebody can say that, okay, so what is wrong with attraction to beauty of the opposite sex, let's say, for a minute. If it is a spark of Krishna, I can also be attracted to the opposite sex. It's all Krishna. But where does the difference lie in this? Is whether we understand the connection to Krishna, right? So how to explain that? Yes, let's just look by an example. So when we come home, sometimes if when a father comes home, he sees his child's a pair of socks lying somewhere, and suddenly the father feels love for the child because there is a connection of those socks to the child that elicits love. Okay, but if that connection is lost, a pair of socks is nothing but just an unhygienic piece of cloth, right? So what this verse means, if I take that analogy here, I bring it here, that all opulence is because of Krishna, no doubt. But it doesn't necessarily take us to Krishna. Because if I don't see that connection to Krishna, then it doesn't take me to Krishna. For example, if I see my spouse as an object of sense gratification, then that path doesn't take me to Krishna. But if I see my spouse as a living entity who's a part and parcel of Krishna, and whom I am playing a role in, supporting the spiritual growth of my spouse, and my spouse is playing in my life, vice versa, then that path is Krishna consciousness. So it's more about intention behind it. So when Krishna says Mama Vartmanu Vartante Manushya Partha Sarvasha, Krishna is saying, yes, all paths come to me. But if you cut me out of the picture, that very same path will no more come to me because you have changed the intention behind walking on that path. Okay. So the very same attraction that can take us close to Krishna can also take us away from Krishna, depending whether we see a connection with Krishna or not. Right. So that is the essence of this verse. So that's what Krishna means when he says that all paths come to me. So yes, everything comes to Krishna because everything is Krishna. Krishna himself says this in the 7th chapter, that all this material world and spiritual world and the Abhīṣṭa-shakti, which is me, Jiva, all belong to Krishna. All are part and parcel of Krishna. So that is why Krishna is saying, Mama Vartmanu Vartante Manushya Partha Sarvasha. But that connection to Krishna has to be made. Otherwise, that path will not take me to Krishna. That's the way to understand it. Right? So that connection has to be made. That's what the essence is. Let's see if Prabhupada has something in the purport. Okay, so see, in other words, everyone is dependent for success upon his mercy alone, and all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path. Unless, therefore, one comes to the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness, all attempts remain imperfect. So, yes, so Prabhupada is also saying, he's stressing on this, that until we are not doing something with this consciousness, that this thing is connected to Krishna, it's even though that path is taking me to Krishna, but I will not be successful on that path. I'll still be imperfect. And then Prabhupada quotes a very famous verse, Akama sarva kama moksha kama udharati tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Whatever desires we have in this life, whether we are without desires, we are desire of fruitive works, or whether we desire of liberation, we should all, direct those towards Krishna, right, for our perfection. So this is Prabhupada is connecting this verse to this purport, and this purport to this verse. That's the 12th verse. Oh, sorry, that was the 11th verse. So we'll come to 12 now. Okay. Any thoughts before I move forward? Anything on your mind that you want to open up? No thoughts, no questions, no comments, anything? Nothing? All clear? Okay, then we will move forward to verse 12. Verse 12 comes, so men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. So now somebody can say that, okay, if all paths go to Krishna, and Krishna is ultimately the rewarder, then why don't people worship him directly? Right? So Krishna answers that question here, that why don't people worship him directly? Because people get quick results when they connect with demigods, right? Like Lord Shiva, he is named as Ashutosh, which means somebody who's pleased easily, right? So demigod worship is like a contract. Okay, we do some rituals and demigods give us rewards in return. So we get attracted to demigods because we get quick results, right? So it's more like we are praying to demigods in a mode of business, not for spiritual advancement, but for material gains, right? So a mother knows that if my child eats chocolate, his teeth will decay, right? That's why the mother will say no to chocolate, sweets, etc. But then the child can keep asking, and sometimes the child will ask his uncle or somebody, a relative, and the relative might give him, right? So in that way, those relatives are like demigods, that, okay, yeah, I went there and they gave me something that Krishna might not give me, but they will give me, because Krishna is thinking about my long-term benefit. But the demigods, they can just get flattered, and by our rituals, and also then they give us quick results. That is why people go to demigods. Okay? Krishna also fulfills our desires. Don't think that Krishna does not fulfill our desires. But Krishna doesn't want us to be materially starved. That's not his goal. But then Krishna gives us things slowly. He doesn't want us to hurt our spiritual prospects. That is why sometimes Krishna does not give us what we are asking for. Okay? Right? That is why we always should, whenever anything happens to us in this life, whenever we asked for something and we didn't get it, we should always tell ourselves that whatever is happening to me is part of Krishna's benevolent plan to bring me closer to his lotus feet. That's the whole purpose. So sometimes you don't get what you wanted, so that's okay. Krishna has a purpose behind it. And in the 5th canto, I think it's Narad Muni speaking, it's the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says Tatyam Dishati Arthita Arthito Nirnam Naivarthado Yat Punar Arthito Yathaha. It means that the Supreme Personality of Godhead fulfills the material desires of a devotee who approaches him with such material motives. So, but the important part is that Krishna does not bestow anything upon his devotees that can increase the desire of that particular material thing. So Krishna will give it in a way that the material desire will also go away, and the person will be satisfied, and he'll come closer to Krishna, right? So that is the That's the way Krishna works. Right? And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, around the same theme, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says this, when he's explaining this verse. It's the verse number is 5:19:28. No, 5:19:27, if anybody is keeping score. So it's 5:19:27. And if you look for that verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, also it repeats. And there Mahaprabhu says, the way he presents it is that Krishna is thinking that, this person is asking for material benefits. He's the fool, but I'm not a fool. I will give him in a way that not only will his desire go away, but he will get connected to me also. So Satyam Dishati Arthita Arthina Nirdam Naivarthado Vyapuna Arthito Itaha. So that's the way Krishna gives. That's the way of Krishna's giving. But unfortunately, people, because they are so engrossed, so bewildered by material desires, they don't want to go to Krishna because they feel that, oh no, Krishna will give me bhakti and he'll take me away from this material world. I don't want to, bring to Krishna. So that's the challenge. That's what Krishna is saying. That's why people don't come to Krishna, right? Prabhupada had close to 5,000 disciples, right? But only a few hundred are now active, right? Because people don't want permanent solutions. Right? They prefer the hardships of the material existence, but they don't want permanent solutions, right? So that's why people are rarely interested in bhakti, Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada would jokingly say that don't be surprised by who left the process, the path, but be amazed at who stayed back in that path. Because this path, as I was saying, yatta dagre vishamviva, parinami amritapama. In the beginning, it looks like a poison, but later on it's nectar. But we are so, in a state of anxiety that we cannot wait for that nectar to come out. We just get bewildered by the poison coming. Oh, this process is not working for me. This process is not working for me, right? Sometimes we go on the internet and we get fooled. Oh, what is all this about? What is Prabhupada saying about Mayavadis? Oh my God, what is he saying about this, that, and so on and so forth? That is why it's very important that we have somebody whom we can always go and consult. Something happened to me recently, just last week. Somebody sent me a long text. I was in connection with that devotee, and he sent me a long text. So he said that I read Prabhupada's discussion with his devotees way back, something that he discussed in the 1970s, and I was very confused. Why did Prabhupada say all this? Oh, I think I can never come to Prabhupada ever again. And I just felt very sad. I felt heartbroken. He said, I told him, I just texted him back and I told him that, I dearly wish that you could have talked to me first before making this decision that you don't want to come to Prabhupada again. So that's the problem out there. There's so much bewilderment out there. This material world is so set up against us that it never lets us come close to Krishna. That's what's going on in this world, unfortunately. And some people get attracted, they get misdirected by so much media out there, which is dishing out nonsense. That is why it's good to have a news fast if possible. Yes, Himavati Vanshi.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I just had a quick question. As we're talking about demigods and quick material results, being part of ISKCON since I was 8 years old, I've seen various, very advanced disciples and devotees, and sometimes their seva gets halted or maybe compromised or taken away because of health ailments or transportation or some sort of obstacle. And I sometimes question, when these advanced devotees potentially are trying to come to Krishna and continue with, the practices in seva, and though they do outside of the temple, is there an explanation that would make sense, I guess, to us commoners in terms of the testing of some of these devotees, because they're asking for spiritual seva, right? Not for material advancement, but sometimes those spiritual even, opportunities kind of gets halted, or maybe even, permanently as you're getting older or aging. Like I know my grandmother, is not able to do active temple duties anymore. She does them, within her own environment. And I know she's really saddened by the disability for her not to be able to do that. So how would you explain something like that to, a beginner like myself?
So
I know it's a complicated question.
the way I'm looking at it is that it's not that services only happen in the temple. You can be Krishna conscious while being at home. For example, your grandmother, she brought 4 children who were Krishna conscious, and she was doing that while she was at home, while she was staying at home. And similarly, your parents, so it's not that you can only do spiritual life in the temple. Yes, temple is a good place. Yes, I agree with that. But then we should not limit ourselves just to the temple. We are devotees everywhere. It's not like that I put on a garb and I go to the temple and I become a devotee. And when I come out, I remove that dress. No, I'm a devotee 24/7. At least I try to be. That is why this concept, when Prabhupada came here, there was no temple. Just imagine a 70-year-old person coming from a holy town of Vrindavan, a person who, before even he stepped in US, had darshan of Krishna. He had seen Krishna practically. You can read that in Lilamrita. There's a big episode there of Janmashtami. Prabhupada told one of his devotees that Krishna came and gave me his garland of Kadamba flowers. So just imagine, for a 70-year-old guy, he left the temple. He left Vrindavan and came here and Krishna blessed him for that. So it's not necessarily that things only happen in the temple. That's one way of looking at it. Another one is that sometimes, Krishna, he teaches through his devotees to others. That's another way of looking at it. So when devotees, for example, look at His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Oh my God, what has he not been through? Surgery, brain surgery. Physically, he's on a wheelchair the whole time. He's on a, he cannot speak. He's got speaking disability, and so on and so forth. But you'll not believe the amount of work he's doing at this moment. And if you want to see, you might have seen, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but the entire Mayapur city, you'll be walking in the middle of the town, and somebody you'll see with a kantimala, and you'll talk to him, and he'll tell you, I'm Jayapataka Maharaj. Maharaj initiates people at the level of 50,000, thousands of people in one go. But he's physically disabled. So it's just a mindset, as I would say. It's not as if that if I'm not able to go to the temple, I'm not able to do bhakti. The bhakti can be easily, what's that? Shravana Kirtana, Smarana Vandana, right? Shravan, Kirtan, Smarana Vandana, all that can be done at home also. That's the way I'm looking at it. And I'm not sure if it helped in any way, but
no, it definitely, I think, helped, because when I think about these devotees, they are practicing at home, and their faith continues and remains to be very strong. But we also talk about regularly attending the temple and having association with other devotees and being involved at the temple. And sometimes it feels that that is more important. And yes, I understand that from one aspect, but I think it helped me to understand that it's not choose one or the other. It's not a hierarchy per se, but you do the best you can, I think. And as long as your faith is strong, even with those limitations, you're still going closer to Krishna. So that was helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's the way to look at it. And I agree with you. It's not that temples don't have it. Temples have a significant role to play in our bhakti process, but it's not just that temples alone do it. Bhakti is a very individual process. I know people, you also might know them. What's her name? Nitya Sivini Mataji. I don't know if you know her. We just Google her. Jayapataka Maharaj told her and her husband to go and open a temple in Visakhapatnam, I think. And that was many years ago. So Maharaj just sent somebody to a place where there's no temple within a few miles range. There's no ISKCON temple. They didn't even go to a temple. And they both, they persevered. They did a lot of penances, austerities, and now today they have a very big they opened a very big temple recently facing the ocean, and Maharaj personally came to inaugurate that temple. So sometimes Krishna, yes, he wants you to come to the temple and see him, but then he also wants us to grow in bhakti, and that he can do in any scenario, irrespective of wherever you are, sitting at home, 24, if you are working 10, 12-hour shifts at work, anywhere, he can lead you a devotee anywhere. Krishna is not limited by this material world and its energies.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There was another hand up. I didn't. And was there any other question or thought? No? Okay. So yes, yes, demigod worship gives us quick results, and that is why people go to demigods.
Prabhuji, I remembered one thing while you were telling about that Krishna does not bestow anything on his devotee which can increase his materialistic desire, right? So I just remembered one incident, I think so, in one of the lectures I had Srila Prabhupada mentioning, right? Because he was very much engaged in his business, right? And he was not getting enough time to do the devotional service. So he very jokingly mentioned, Krishna is so merciful, if he thinks that anything is an impediment in the path of devotional service, he takes it. So I had a massive loss in the business, and that is how, I got rid of all that materialistic thing, and I get so much time to do the devotional service. So that is how sometimes Krishna acts.
Yeah, that's and so it eventually ends up in increasing our faith in him. That is the whole essence of whatever Krishna does, is to strengthen our faith in him. And don't tell a big newcomer, but Krishna even goes in the 10th canto. There's a verse where Krishna says that and let me if I especially favor somebody, then I take away everything from them.
Yes.
Yasyaham anugrami Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ sane. Krishna says that. So comes the 10th canto, 88th chapter, verse number 8. So yasyaham anugrami Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ sane tato dhanam tyajanti asya sukha sukhinam. Sorry, I'm not. But Krishna is saying there that when I'm really very happy with somebody, I take away everything. Now it's so hard to understand that, but a pure devotee can understand. That is why we don't tell such verses to newcomers, otherwise they'll never come back. So, but yes, that's the truth. Yes, and Prabhupada, being a pure devotee, he understood that. Thank you for bringing that in. Okay, so let's go to 13th verse. There comes an important verse. 13th verse. Says Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhaveva tasya kartaram apimam vidhiya kartaram avyayam. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unable. So Krishna here is clarifying a big doubt, or big, I think, it's like the whole faith has been maligned because people all over the world think that India has a caste system, and which is not correct. Our caste system is not by birth; it is by guna and karma. Where does this verse come from? Krishna is talked about in this 11th verse about people who worship demigods. So Arjun could ask that, okay, so Krishna, how will those people be elevated? So Krishna says Chaturvarnya. Those people are elevated by Chaturvarnya, right? So these are not castes. These are basically four human types, you can say broadly, which is intellectuals, that's Brahmana, Chaturvarnya Brahmana. Then comes administrators, which is Kshatriyas. And then there's the mercantile community, which is Vaishyas. And then there is a general assistance community, which is Shudras, right? You'll find that everywhere. It's in every country. Every profession has that. You know, I work in a research place, so there is research scientists there. There is an administration. There is a sales department. There are personal assistants, so on and so forth. So everybody has that. The society is everywhere. So we have talked about this earlier. The Varnashrama system has it provides social structure for spiritual advancement. That's the purpose of the Varnashrama system, of these four Varnas that Krishna is talking about. So individual growth in bhakti is a big struggle. That is why Krishna created a system around it, a support system for everyone, and that's the Varnashrama system, right? The individual struggle for spiritual advancement can, if we have a social structure supporting us, then it becomes very easy for us to do, right? Like for example, we have colleges, people can get together and study. So that's the Varna system, okay? And then there is the ashram aspect also, where we have a time-wise progression in spiritual of one's spiritual commitment. We have brahmacharya, grihastha, vanprastha, and sannyasa, right? So these Varna and ashrama systems, they provide material needs in the least complicated way and in the most harmonious way possible, right? Unfortunately, in today's world, we are no more looking at what my guna and karma is. All I'm looking for is what is more giving me more money. That creates confusion and anxiety in the society. So many carriers are available. Sometimes parents select paths for the children that are not suitable for the children, right? But there's so much of peer pressure that people fall prey to that peer pressure, right? And then they end up unsatisfied, unharmonious, and live a frustrated life. So that's why this principle of Varna and Ashram is not arbitrary. Krishna has thoroughly thought it out. And there are two things that are being talked out here, guna and karma. Okay, so guna means character, and karma is competency. Okay, so if you have to define these two words, right? So competency means it's a level of skill or an experience that one has, right, in a respective domain. Engineering, marketing, sales, and so forth. That's competency. Character, on the other hand, is possession of more valuable traits, personality traits, integrity, persistence, honesty, humanity, fairness, empathy, to name a few. So there's a difference between guna and karma, and both of these are needed for effectively and harmoniously move forward in our life. So I put a small table here to show how all of them relate to each other. So if our guna and karma is appropriate and we are in the right varna, then we will become very effective in the society, right here. If we are not competent enough, that means we don't have those personality traits, but our character is good. So we will be well-meaning, but we won't be able to perform in that task that we have been given. If our character is not good, then we'll become cheats, right? So, for example, the doctor can, he have he might have a competency. Okay, so doctor can have a competency. He can have the necessary tools and skills he needs to be a doctor. But if the doctor starts stealing organs, it becomes his character is poor. Okay, that's what happens. He's skilled, but he's unscrupulous. Okay, and then the last but not the least is low competency and low character. That person is inefficient. He's of no use to the society. So that's why guna and karma are very, very important, but they're not by birth. That's what Krishna is saying, and that's something people don't, even people in India don't realize this, right? So if there are administrators who have the competency, but they are not character, they don't have a good character, then they don't become good rulers. People who become presidents but who don't have the proper character, they're not able to be good role models and rulers. But an important thing to understand here is that Krishna makes these four varnas, but he doesn't put people in those varnas. Understand that? That's something also I wanted to bring out here. Krishna has created 4 varnas for me. He has created 4 areas. But who goes in which area is decided by the person himself. Right? So Krishna doesn't make somebody a Shudra. But by my activities, I can surely become a Shudra. That's the problem here. So Krishna created them, but he doesn't put me there. So I have a free will which I can always use to go from one varna to another. That's the essence here to understand also. Right? Okay, so not putting us in the varnas. Now let's see Prabhupada is saying. Human society is similar to any other animal society, but to elevate men from the animal status, the above mentioned divisions are created by the Lord for the systematic development of Krishna consciousness. The tendency of a particular man toward work is determined by the modes of material nature which he has acquired. Prabhupada is clearly telling us Krishna makes those sections of society, and I, depending on my interaction with these material modes, I go into these different areas. Okay. So it might be hard for me to do it in one life. Like, for example, if I'm born with this particular tendency, I can change, but then it might be that I might not be able to, and then I can create a lot of disharmony in the society if I try to be in a varna without being appropriately meant for it. But I can be in whichever varna I am. I can stay in that varna and systematically become more and more Krishna consciousness and move from one varna to another. There are 2 hands raised. Who's that? Yes, please go ahead. Shalini Mantri.
Prabhuji, so you mentioned caste system is based on the guna and karma, right? And so I remember the example of Karn, right?
Yeah.
He was born and brought up in the Shudra family, even though by birth he was a Kshatri. And Krishna was there watching all that at that time, right? And then in front of Krishna, even though he was having all the capabilities, abilities, and the craftsmanship and the art of being a true Kshatri, right? He was a great Dhanudha. But in front of Krishna only, the caste system was so much pervading.
Yeah.
How do we
true.
understand that?
Well, I mentioned this probably in a class earlier. When Mahabharata was happening, it was not a perfect society. The society was already degraded. That is why Krishna had to come and speak Bhagavad Gita, had to get the Mahabharata in place and finish those guys off. So that society wasn't a perfect society. We should not look up to that society as a role model or as a model society. So yes, it was the caste system was being misused. People in different varnas were trying to jump into other varnas. For example, there's a Eklavya. Eklavya was coming from a Nishad community. Eklavya was coming from a Nishad community. His guru told him, or whom he considered as guru, Dronacharya, he told him, I cannot train you, I cannot train you because I am a teacher to these princes, so I cannot teach you. But even though because he was not a Kshatriya by nature, just because of him being a Shudra by nature, he still, in his own ego, went and said, no, I will learn. And I'll show my guru that I am a very good student. But that's not what a Kshatriya should do. Kshatriya, if a guru is telling you that you don't learn from me, you should not learn. So just another example. So yes, at that time, the systems were not perfect. That's what I just probably, more concise way I would say. Was that helpful, Manji?
I was just thinking Krishna is preaching this to Arjuna, right? About the caste system, how it should be based on. And in front of him only, the caste system was not followed as he wanted the people to understand and follow. So this is like in
So
front
Krishna
of God.
cannot interfere with your free will. Krishna does not interfere with your free will. Even if the society is perfect and somebody wants to misuse it, they can misuse it. Krishna is not going to interfere. That is why Krishna is saying, right, guna karma vibhagayo, that I made these 4 divisions. Now you can fall in any one of them according to your own karma. I'm not going to define your karma for you. Being Krishna, being there doesn't necessarily mean that Krishna is going to fix it for you.
Okay.
That's not the way. Don't expect that. For example, we all are doing bhakti, but if I voluntarily one day stand up and say, I'm not going to chant my round shot. Yes, I have made a commitment to my guru that I'm going to do 16 rounds, 4 regulatory principles, but I'm not going to do it today. Can Krishna do something about it? No, he cannot do anything about it. Can my guru do something about it? Might be, but he also will be only able to help me to an extent. Why? Because me as a living entity have a tiny amount of free will which I can misuse according to my capacity. Krishna being there, not being there, doesn't matter. Lord Ram was here, Sita was abducted, right? Lord Ram was here, he was thrown out of the kingdom. Obviously, all the leelas are for a purpose. And that's another way of looking at it, that, sometimes Krishna does things which are not appropriate to teach a lesson in society also. So then you can look at it from multiple levels, but in a broader sense, you have to understand that Krishna is not going to interfere without free will. That is why you have to have a sense of responsibility in doing bhakti. Don't leave everything on Krishna. Okay, Krishna will take care of me. That's only for Uttam Adhikaris, not for us beginners.
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, it makes sense now. Thank you.
And there was another question. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead. Radhika Chitra Lekha. She's not there. Okay.
Prabhuji, I'm so sorry. You know what? My kids keep on, my son touched my phone again. I'm very, very sorry, Prabhuji.
Okay, no problem. Okay. So let's move forward. And as Krishna is transcendental to the system of the 4 divisions of human society, a person in Krishna consciousness is also transcendental to all divisions of human society, whether we consider the divisions of community, nation, or species. Yes. We read this verse, the 6th verse of Nectar of Instruction. Subhava janite vapushashta jose na prakritatvam ya bhakta janasya pas. Gangam bhasham na khalo udbudha phena pankhir brahma dharvatvam apagachati nida dharme. That for a devotee, none of these divisions matter. And even Mahaprabhu says, right, Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati. Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati, Napi Vaishya Na Shudra. Naham Varni Nacha Grahapati, Na Vanastoya Tirva. So he says that in Chaitanya Srila Madhya, that I am nobody. I'm beyond all these caste and varna systems, right? So that's what Prabhupada is telling us. That as a devotee, we go beyond all these caste systems. We are not in any of these. We are beyond them. Why? Because we have become Krishna's servants. That is the beauty of it. And it's not that you become at some point. The moment you take up to devotional practice, that time itself, you become transcendental. Like there's an example that Prabhupada gives about a ripe mango and a green mango. Either you are a ripe mango in bhakti or you are a green mango, you're a beginner in bhakti. In both the cases, you are a mango. You're already on that path. So Krishna is going to take pay special attention to you because you're on the path of bhakti. That's what Prabhupada is explaining here. We are beyond that at any time. Beyond that divisions of society. Okay, coming to 14th verse. Let's see what's going on. Okay, let's look the verse. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Okay. So that's so Krishna is saying that I'm not affected by work, nor do I desire fruits of work. Krishna is saying that, right? So in the last verse we read, the lower half of the verse was that I am the nor-doer. And Krishna is explaining this here, right? Quickly read the verse. The 13th verse was Chaturvarnya maya shishtam guna karma vibhagsha tasya kartaram apimam vidhiya kartaram apyayam. So that's it. although I am the creator of the system, yet I am the non-doer and I am not changeable. And that's what Krishna is explaining in the 14th verse. He's going into more details of that concept. So that's being explained here. So the point is that Krishna is transcendental. So there are two things, okay? There is one is to know Krishna, and the other is to know about Krishna. So there's an important distinction there. For example, if a mother takes the child to a doctor, the doctor takes the vitals of the child, temperature, heartbeat, and so and so forth. So the doctor knows the vitals of the patient, the child. Mother might not know those. Okay. So, but the mother knows the patient. Mother knows the child, even though she doesn't know his vitals, right? So to know means, God did this, God did that. So one can know about God, and one can also know God. So knowing about somebody and knowing somebody is different. That's what I'm trying to highlight. And which one is important? So when we know about Krishna, that's basically theoretical knowledge. Okay, I know about Krishna. Yes, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna said, do your karma. Krishna was Yashoda Maiya's son. So I know about Krishna. So that's theoretical knowledge. But then to know Krishna actually is what Krishna wants us to do. Janma karma chivitivyam evam juveti tattva. So that's transformational knowledge. Right? Transformational knowledge is what changes the direction of our love in this world. Theoretical knowledge is all up here. It's all up here, I can memorize verses, I can memorize texts, so on and so forth, but it's all theoretical knowledge. It has to filter down to the heart. If that does not happen, it's all useless. It doesn't make much of a difference. So I can know about Krishna, a bit about Krishna in my mind. Oh, Krishna said this is the 5th canto, Krishna said this is the 10th canto, so on and so forth. But unless that does not filter down to my heart, doesn't change the direction of the love which I have right now directed towards the material world, it doesn't have much value. So that's what Krishna is mentioning and highlighting here, that there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me does not become entangled in the fruitive reaction of it. So one who knows Krishna, Tattvata, as the absolute truth, only then our change in our heart happens. Otherwise, it does not happen. That's something to understand. And for that, we have to be sincere in our practice. Something to keep in mind. Sincerity is the most important thing. Okay. Yeah. So that's the essence coming from this verse. You see, Prabhupada has something in here. So Prabhupada is quoting a verse from Vedic Smriti where it said, Pradhana Karani Bhuta. So he's saying, Pradhana Karani Bhuta. So, and then he says, the Lord is never partial to any living entity. The living entity is responsible for his own acts. So Lord is not partial. Lord is just reciprocal. Okay? Because he's a living being. That is why. If it's just a force, being neutral is ideal to it. Gravity is neutral. Okay? It acts same on all of us. But for a person, Bhagwan is a person, reciprocity is ideal. That's what makes the person lovable. Okay? And that's what Krishna is highlighting here, that it's our responsibility to come to that position of loving him. And if you think understands this truth about me, does not become entangled in this. Right? That Krishna is beyond all this. Understanding that opens up our heart, changes the direction of our love towards him, and then we become Krishna conscious. We move forward. Okay. So now coming to the next verse, 15. All the liberated souls in the ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. So many people have been liberated by hearing this knowledge, by this process. So it's just not a theoretical statement that Krishna is putting forth. So people who in the past have seek liberation, they've got liberation. Therefore, Arjun should act in a similar way and follow such people. That's what Krishna is telling. It's a time-tested process. So this Krishna conscious process is not, it's neither modern nor ancient. It's eternal. It's been around forever. It's Sanatana. Right? That's it. So, and then Prabhupada is saying here, I've highlighted, one need only know how to act. What Prabhupada means, one does not have to renounce anything. We just simply should know how to act. Right? It's not by doing action that we get bound to we get bound. No. There is a way in which we can do the action but still be free from bondage. It's not the work that causes the bondage. It's the attachment to the work that causes the bondage. The motivation behind the work that causes the bondage. That is the essence coming from here. So Prabhupada is saying one need only know how to act. Prabhupada is suggesting that actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna is the more important thing to do. Okay. And so Krishna is asking Arjun to follow the footsteps of Lord's previous disciples. Krishna Prabhupada is telling us that. So we should know how to act, right? That's the important message coming up. If we know how to act, even the activity, whatever activity we are doing, becomes purified and it moves us further on the path. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. Okay, let's just so this section, this is another section now where karma will come into picture. So there will be a lot of the use of word karma, akarma, vikarma. So this is the section where it starts. That concept of karma and karma, all that will come into picture. So let's just do this one. Kim karma, kim akarmeti, kavyo api atra mohita, tatte karma pravakshyami, yaj gyatva mokshase ashubhat. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So Krishna is saying, what is karma and what is akarma? Even wise don't know that. Right? So there's a profound promise that Krishna is making here that you will not just be free from the misfortune of the karmic bondage coming from war, but all the karmic bondage. Right? So all the bondages that Krishna is there, Arjun will be freed of that. But Krishna is highlighting that this process it's not easy to understand. If somebody tries to go down the path, oh, let me figure out what karma, what led to this result, you will never be able to go anywhere. Right? That is the message which Krishna is telling us here, that you don't try to invest your time in understanding what karma and akarma is. You just follow what I have taught you, and you just believe, have faith in that, and you move forward. Then everything will be fine. There's an elaborate discussion in Mahabharata after Ashwathama attacks the 5 children of the Pandavas, right? So it comes after that attack episode. So what happens is that after the war is over, Yudhishthira wanted to give up everything. He says, "Oh my God, so much carnage has happened. I'm going to leave everything, go to the mountains." So he thought that was the right thing to do. He felt condemned because so many people died because he wanted to be king. And so what he does is he asks Bhima to be king and he leaves. Or he gets to leave. He doesn't leave back, but he starts to leave. Now Bhima gets very angry. You know? So Bhima gets very angry. He says that if this was your thought, why did you even fight in the first place? Right? If going to the forest is going to liberate you, all the animals should be liberated. Bhima says jokingly to Yudhishthira. And so Yudhishthira gets angry when he hears that. So, and then furthermore, to add fuel to the fire, Krishna says to Yudhishthira, "Oh, that your mind is uncontrolled. That is why you're running away to the forest." Oh, now that enrages Yudhishthira. He says, "How can I have an uncontrolled mind? Right? I'm renouncing everything." Right? And when none of them have a resolution, then Krishna takes all of them to Bhishma-dev. Right? That's in the first canto and in the 9th chapter. So there Bhishma gives that knowledge to all those brothers. And it comes in the first canto, the 9th chapter, where there is Lord Bhishma's prayers, and the instructions Lord Bhishma. Says Tathapi Ekanta Bhakteshu Pashya Bhupanukampitam. So what he's saying is that Lord is surely going to bless you. Don't doubt in him. Even though he's equally kind to everyone, but he's especially paying a lot of attention to his devotees. And he was quoting his own example that, I have done so much, but still Krishna is sitting in front. So Lord will bless. Do not doubt that. Don't try to use your own intelligence to understand Krishna or his message. It can become very bewildering. That is why in our process of bhakti, along with chanting, we also have to understand what our relationship is with Krishna. We have to hear about it. That sambandha jnana. What is my sambandha with Krishna? That is something we have to also learn as we move in the process. Otherwise, this process of karma, oh, should I do this activity? Oh, this activity is going to bring me bad karma. I will not do it. Paying too much focus on this can fry our brain. Not do that. So just follow what Krishna has given us, and which is coming through the disciplic succession. We move forward on this path, and we will surely be successful. There are 6 bedrock principles for our to make progress in bhakti, and so be disciplined. That's the first one. Be disciplined, and then approach. Associate with advanced devotees. Approach them and go to advanced devotees, and then depend on our guru, on Krishna. That's also when Avashya Rakshive Krishna Vishwasha Palana. I have full faith that Krishna will protect. So those are 3, right? So be disciplined, association, and depend on Krishna and Guru, and then be clear in your purpose, what your purpose is. Carefully examine the purpose every day. Right? So if we don't have a purpose, if our purpose is weak, we can easily get distracted and discouraged. Then the material life looks more attractive, spiritual life looks hard if we're not clear about our purpose. Then so 4th, with commitment. Commitment is another principle, bedrock principle. Make up your mind after intelligent reasoning that this is the activity I'm going to perform without fail, whatever may come, As soon as you make this firm commitment, Krishna and all his personified potencies will come to assist you. Prabhupada says this in a second canto, 1st chapter, verse number 12. By chanting the Lord's holy name, one can derive all the stipulated energy synchronized from all sources. So when we make a commitment that I'm going to do this for sure, then all the personified potencies of Krishna come to help us out. But first we have to make a commitment. And last but not the least, practice. Right? Get regulated. We have to get regulated. Through regular practice, we will develop competency in any skill. Right? So these are 6 bedrock principles for our bhakti. So, not you trying to, trying to understand what is karma, what is akarma, but just understanding what the message that Krishna is giving us, bringing it in the frame of some of these principles that have been given to us by Prabhupada, then we'll surely be liberated. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. That's something we've clearly told by Prabhupada here. We cannot speculate our way into bhakti. That will never happen. It will just be a theoretical knowledge. That nothing will come down to my heart. Okay. 17. 17 is a bit complicated, a verse. I will spend on this so that we can. I'll have to explain it in a way so that makes it easy for all of us to understand. So I'll end here. If there are any questions or thoughts or comments, happy to discuss those. Anything you want to bring out? Okay, if not, we'll wrap up. Get back.